All right, we are good to go.
Avast me, hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is me skinny rich friend and first mate.
Yeah, it's Mozz.
Hey, Mozzie, so glad you could join us. Tonight's episode, in a world of gods and monsters, literal gods make literal monsters in the world of Moon Knight. Season 1, Episode 1, The Goldfish Problem. Stephen Grant learns that he may be a superhero, but may also share a body with a ruthless mercenary. We got directors, we got Justin Benson, Mohammed Diab, and Aaron Moorhead. Our writers this week are, oh boy, a lot of them. We got our created for television by, gotta reload. I want to make sure I get everyone's listed correctly. Created for television by Jeremy Slater. Jeremy Slater also gets our written by credit this week. The characters are being credited to Doug Moench, who gets the creator credit, and Don Perlin gets also character credit. I believe these are the people who maybe did the comic book Moon Knight characters for Arthur Harrow and Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, and Moon Knight. And of course, hardest working person in show business this week is good old Danielle Iman. Danielle, you are hardest working woman in show business, person in show business. It's D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E. Pretty sure that's Danielle, not Daniel, but you never know. That's why you should always ask people their pronouns. All right, moving right along. Mozzie, this episode, what'd you think?
I liked it more than I expected it to like it, because the concept of like this fractured mind, it seems easy to do poorly, and I was afraid that it would be easy to make it look real goofy, especially with how, I mean, given the context of watching the first episode, the costume doesn't feel as goofy, but when you first see it in the trailer, the pointy thing, it just seems too kitschy. It seems too put on, too like fan servicey or too cosplay-y. But I guess it was Oscar Isaac's performance that sold it, and I bought into all the rest of it too. None of it really bothered me in the show as I thought it would. I really dug it. I thought it was an interesting concept and a great guy. And I could see why they needed a really good actor for it. So, because at first I was like, what is he doing in this show? Like, okay, but there's so much meat on the bone there. That's a really fun role, I'm sure, for him to play. Definitely is fun to watch.
I mean, without a doubt, it is. There's so much good in this, and you know, I guess what I will give you is this is arguably the first time where we are just stepping into the costume, and it gets weirder because we're gonna get to Mr. Knight later with the white suit and the little mask, and it is. You know, they're saying no. We are a comic book movie about superheroes, and we are going to go there. We're going to say, and you know, this is a good character for it because his existence is defined by this, either his imagination or his tie to a god, and like what that even is as it's sort of created in this universe. It's like, is this just that wish fulfillment? This is how I see myself if I were to make myself into a superhero. Is this just how the god Khonshu makes his avatars look? That's always the question. Because that I think is one of the most fascinating things. We get this very interesting thing in this moment. And this comes a little bit later. But this to me is my favorite scene because it really tells me how disconnected from reality everything is. This is later. This is after the whole thing in the Alps and all that stuff. Steve is on the bus. He looks out the window and he sees Khonshu. As he gets off the bus, he sees Harrow. And then he says, oh, he is real. Meaning that Harrow is real, not Khonshu, who we just also saw. So within his mind, he is carving out a space for Harrow as something different than Khonshu, I guess.
Right,
You
but
know?
also it's like, on a subconscious level, your brain reacts to different stimuli in different ways. When you see
Yeah.
something that outlandish, you try much harder to relegate it to fantasy than when you see just a person, right?
Mhm.
Even if it has a stronger connection to something you've experienced before or to something you didn't think was real before, it's still a regular person. So it's easy to think, oh, that is real. Whereas your brain automatically, when it sees like, a giant skeleton of an emu or an ostrich or whatever in tattered toilet paper or whatever, your brain can't possibly find any justification for placing it in the real world, so it fights very hard to relegate it to that must be a dream. So he turns around, like, am I still here? But when he sees a person, it's like, I can buy that. Oh, wait a second, it's really hard to deny that I didn't see the person, because that's just it's not fantastical. I probably really did see that person. So what an interesting concept to explore in the mind from that perspective. Not to
Yeah.
mention all the other things about which personality he is, and the fact that our main character, or at least the perspective we start with, is the side piece. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What a
Yeah,
great! I don't
and
think
that
I've seen
is,
that done before.
yeah, well, that is what I think is most interesting about it. The fact that Steven is our POV character, at least in episode one. I actually kind of hope we're going to keep Steven as the POV character for a while, because I think it's going to make his later relegation somewhat, it'll have a more emotional impact
Yeah.
when we realize that there is not a mom he's calling, because that's the thing is he's calling his mom, and that's not a person, and that, and there are these gaps in his life
Right.
that we're not
She
addressing.
never picks up
Yeah,
though. Is he reliving the same day
exactly.
over and
Well,
over again in his
that's
mind,
well,
or
I mean, see, here's what's interesting, because like the first time, it's he's talking to a machine. The second time, it almost seems like he's just talking to them. And what's, like I said, and I mentioned this on one of our other on I think super no Capes and Lunatics, scroll up or scroll down, that that is actually something that modern day, you will see modern day schizophrenics do,
Hmm.
is when the voices start coming, they'll open up their phone and they'll just start talking to their phone, because it doesn't look weird when you do it that way. So when it's just a voice on my phone, you can talk to that voice on
Wow,
your phone. And it's a
fascinating.
coping mechanism for people having auditory hallucinations, that they will do that because it makes them blend in.
Right.
Now, of course, as it starts to go on, people can notice the difference. But when you first start doing it, when someone first starts yelling at their phone, like, oh, no, that person's
The
such and such.
the other thought I
Yeah.
had was, what if, like, he's created this scenario in his mind to justify what he's doing, in that, like, oh, maybe his mom is in the hospital with a coma, or maybe his mom
Hmm.
passed away and this is her phone number, and he just keeps calling and leaves messages as a way to spiritually keep connecting to that energy.
Hmm. I mean, that's a possibility too. You know, what we do, what we can, well, and that's the thing is, like, we can say what we know,
Hmm.
but of course, that's always a risk in this situation, because so in the actual Marvel comics, Mark Spector is the original personality. Mark Spector is the son of a rabbi. He's a millionaire. He's been a mercenary. That's the person.
Hmm.
Stephen Grant, and who actually is the Playboy millionaire persona for Mark Spector, though not in this one. And then Jake Loxley, who is the Cabby, the Matches Malone character, that's a Batman reference. Matches Malone character for
Wasn't it Patches Malone?
no, it's Matches, I think,
Oh, it is
because he always had
Matches.
a
Okay.
matchstick in his mouth.
Ah.
So, because Matches Malone, because I guess Batman still didn't want to smoke, so he just would have a matchstick in his mouth to show he was a tough guy, I guess.
Right.
I
I'm
don't
still
know. I
picking
don't
the
know
last
when
guy out of
Matches
my
Malone
teeth.
started. Yeah. Well, you know, it's a thing. Well, you know, people used to keep toothpicks in their mouth to show they were tough too.
Well,
Just
there
having
was this
something-
UFC fighter, Benson Henderson, who for years got away with doing it until the commission noticed. He used to fight with a toothpick in his mouth, over his mouth guard. It was the silliest thing and so unbelievably dangerous. But eventually people, wait a second, does he have a toothpick in his mouth while he's throwing that punch? And then they had to okay, you can't, they had to write a rule saying you can't do that. That's
Yeah, well,
insane
you
to
know,
me.
I would here's what I'll say as a fun thing, it probably doesn't affect the fight. Because if he's not like grabbing it and punching with it.
Oh, I'm just thinking from the perspective of somebody comes up, grapples you, and their eye hits the side of your mouth and you rupture their eyeball.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you know, yeah, that okay. So I can see that. Although why are you hitting their mouth in that way? I don't know.
I mean, it could let like there's headbutts. You know, if you're going in for a takedown and the guy's turning around to throw a punch, your heads could collide, hit the wrong
Yeah.
angle. You know, or he punches you, flies out, and pokes you or the referee.
Yeah.
It sounds like such a dangerous idea to me. I mean, I know they're
understand,
fighting in a cage,
I
but
thought
that
UFC
really
was
makes
the
me
rules,
nervous.
man. I don't know. I'm just saying. I ain't using the toothpick to harm you. I just got it in my mouth.
That was his point. It made him feel cool while he was fighting. So, you know.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, a lit cigarette probably would have been worse. A lit cigarette, you didn't notice. But anyway, yeah, so my big prediction is Jake Loxley is going to be actually the base persona at the end of this. And they're just going to completely, everybody's just somebody that they created to be that person that they wanted to be. And maybe Jake Loxley is the billionaire. I don't know. I
hope in subsequent episodes we get an episode that revisits all those moments from the first episode, and we get to see the other side of the coin. Like him fighting.
That's what they're gonna do,
right? Like him fighting, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the fight, he flashes back, and he's back in trouble again. He's like, "I just beat a bunch of guys. What are you doing now? I'm fighting these guys?" He's like, "Okay, thank God I beat those guys." He rests for a second. He comes to it. All of a sudden, more guys are attacking him. That would be his perspective, wouldn't it? That's hilarious.
Exactly, and that's the big question that we'll find out, I guess, tomorrow. Is are they going to do that in the second episode? Is the second episode going to be that reverse camera angle?
Oh, that would be cool.
It would be cool, and it's definitely a way to fill time. Or they're going to give us another day of another day of Stephen Grant. My hope is, like I said, I hope it's like 6 episodes, so you have to parse it out. So I'm hoping we get at least 2 episodes with Stephen Grant as our POV character. Then maybe we're going to do a lot of those flashbacks and sort of as a almost as a rapid fire with Mark Spector, where you're getting those moments of Mark Spector's awareness in the situation, and maybe even getting some explanations as to who Mum is and all that kind of stuff. I've seen theories about basically that Mark Spector created this account for Stephen Grant to call so that he could keep tabs on Stephen Grant during his activities, because he'd call his mom and tell him everything he needed to know. Like, I'm having trouble with my sleepwalking. Yeah, because that's the thing, because you see he has this whole elaborate setup to prevent himself from sleepwalking. And yet he wakes up and he's back in his elaborate setup, which means that someone knew what to put back where it was.
Right. I mean,
then I guess if
he created you, so he knows everything you will subsequently create. No.
Well, the actual thing with DID is that you don't really create them, but you can be aware of them.
No, I mean, let's be honest. You created them. As far as the charade, we're going to allow to continue, whatever. But like, it starts
Yeah,
off with
yeah.
you needing to create
Well,
it. You
my point
create it.
is that Mark Spector. So, and that's the idea. It's like, so that's sort of, and it's honestly, it's a Banner Hulk thing, which we may be getting when we get into She-Hulk. Is this idea that, you know, Banner isn't the base. Everyone thinks Banner is the base personality. Banner is just one of the person that the actual base personality is most likely childlike Hulk, because that's when the dissociation started to occur. That was when that original trauma started to occur, to split them into the hyper intellectual Banner, the rage filled Hulk, the Mr. Fix It Hulk.
So there was a side of him even before the Gamma accident that would come out that would be rage
Oh
filled.
yeah. That's canon now.
Oh,
Yeah. So like you actually see that, like the
wow.
Mr. Fix It persona actually came out in college. That was sort of his prepubescent or his post-pubescent lust aspect. Like, come here, girly, give me a kiss, you know. Uh,
Huh.
yeah, so that's how it's evolved at this point, you know. And it makes sense because, and that's of course the joy of any of these stories. You know, when you first start any of these stories, they're not who they become. Who they become becomes after 20 years of comics before you get like, oh wow, that's a perfect character. That's a really great character. And that's sort of the advantage of the movies, is they get to drop a really well-developed character into a movie with a lot of really cute little tells and ticks that are, that they didn't have to go through decades of trial and error to get to, you know? And that is the advantage of it, you know. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, Mark Spector in his first appearance, none of this is what he is, and he's actually literally just a random mercenary that got hired and given a suit, and they had to retcon all that when they realized this is actually a pretty cool character. I think we need to do more with him, you know. And then
So
they
do you
built
think,
out the whole
my opinion
backstory.
is Mark Spector knows all his little tricks because, what's his name is just a compartment in his brain. And he just goes and opens a file. Okay, that's, it's like that data is that readily available to the over soul, so to speak.
Well, unfortunately, that's not usually how it works. And so the
Huh.
idea is that, because the idea is that essentially what it is that because of trauma or whatever, you're breaking up different parts of your experience. So you have the personality that handles X and you have the personality that handles Y. And that in that sense, really, arguably, you know, the Stephen Grant persona is literally the recuperation persona.
Right. So
This is
then
the
who is
persona.
so then who is fixing the sand and the tape?
Well, no, well, that's what Mark Spector is doing when he's coming back. But the idea is, so it's like this. They don't necessarily know about each other because they're not creating each other.
No,
They
no,
just
but like,
exist.
right, but
So,
isn't Mark the original person?
well, in the original comics, he is. We don't know that
Oh,
yet.
okay. I got you. I got
That's
you.
where I'm getting to, where I imagine they might make Jake Loxley the original
Mm,
person. That Jake Loxley actually is the core personality that has been separated out by trauma, and that one person is Stephen Grant, the mama's boy who clings to his mother and, you know, just wants to get through his day. He's a big nerd. He loves his Egyptology, and that's who he is. And Mark Spector is the big tough guy character. And in this universe, then Jake Loxley becomes the person for whom all of this trauma was put upon. Jake Loxley is the guy who is rejected by his father, or who makes his own way. Jake Loxley joins the French Foreign Legion, but when he's there, you know, he feels maybe he can't be manly enough as Jake Loxley, so he becomes Mark Spector. There are ways you can play out this story, you
hmm.
know, that it where you can expand out who he's going to be and what he's going to become. And I think that's good, but that's just my fan theory. Now, they may keep to the books and Mark Spector is the base personality and he's just trying to control everything. But I think the way they've set it up so far with Stephen Grant, he does seem like the safety personality. He's where you retreat to because, and this is the idea that the mental trauma of both being a mercenary and being an avatar of Khonshu is probably a lot for the mortal mind to bear. And there's an interesting, and this is just comic book lore, but there's an interesting thing about like some Irish deities who started finding avatars on Earth and gave them superpowers. And actually it was like, yeah, but eventually the avatars burn out because you can't handle being an avatar because it's a lot of stress on your psyche. But you know what? If we find someone that just really wants to be an avatar and just really wants to have the power flow through them, it's a win-win. This person wants X, we give them X, and we get to be gods on Earth again. And
Yeah, but that seems like the way people burn out is probably through ambition, right? I mean, like you offer anybody that kind of power, it's bound to corrupt the person's morals.
well, the idea is, well, not necessarily, because someone may just want certain things,
I don't know. It's a certain kind of person that chases power. Usually not the ones who deserve it.
Well, it's like any extra dimensional being coming to offer you a deal. They don't offer you the deal because you want to be king of the world, because honestly, they know there's too many forces that are going to prevent you from being king of the world. But if you just want to save the girl or keep your kid away from that drug dealer, they'll give you the power.
Those are the people that are most ripe for corruption.
Well, exactly. And that is who you give it, and you give that power to. They're going to burn out. But if they burn out after their kid is safe, they're okay. Like, no, that's fine. I knew I only had so much time on this earth. I just had to make sure I got my kid from point A to point B. They're a doctor. Thank you. I'm Audi 5000, I mean.
Or fool yourself into thinking you're doing it for the greater good. No, I need to stick around. I need to save people. Maybe I'll take a little piece for myself. Maybe I'll take another little piece for myself.
Well, that's exactly where the corruption occurs. And that's
right. I think that's part of
issue.
Human nature, and I think inevitable and inescapable.
And I think that is at play here too. I think the issue with Khonshu, played by F. Murray Abraham, just to give him that because he's the voice. But I think that's the idea, is that the base personality, whoever it was, has made the deal with Khonshu, but that in their own mind they're building other structures and other protections against what might overwhelm them as a spirit of Khonshu. So they're not just going to let themselves be overwhelmed. They're going to stand and say, okay, when it gets to be too much, I'm putting Steve back in charge. I'm going to make sure Steve can get to where he needs to be. So long as I always get Steve back to his bed, he's okay. So effectively, Mark can jump in and jump out as needed. But of course, what we're seeing here is that presumably Mark has been running these long cons and these things and jumping back and forth. But now as they come to a head, Mark's not getting his rest periods, which is why when Steven gets thrown out a window, which is what we presume happened here, is because there's nobody around him. We assume he basically leapt from the window and fell and rolled and did that because he's just that amazing. Dislocated his jaw, clearly.
I find that really interesting too, that he was right before the point of impact that, nah, you deal with that. Yeah. And then left him to deal with it.
No. Actually, I imagine it's just after. And I actually imagine, if we're assuming that the Moon Knight persona exists as well, and that's the thing, that's where this thing gets a little bit complex, as we see he does the full-on Moon Knight at the end of the episode. So he jumps out and he's got the cape and he does that, but he still
So you're
falls and
saying,
lands.
well, I mean, is that all mystical? Does it go away once the personality goes away? Is that
I
tied to
imagine
that?
so. We don't really know yet. That's
Right.
the thing.
So what you're saying is we don't really know that it was Moon Knight that jumped out that window. It could have been another one of his personalities. And that's the reason he crash landed, because Moon Knight would have landed in superhero pose.
Well, exactly. Well,
Ah.
no, because I mean, you can only do so much when you're jumping out of a 4-story building.
Yeah, right, but so that in that way, I find that hilarious. That right
Yeah,
before the point of impact, he said, "Nah, I'm out. Come on, Steven, where are you? You deal with the broken jaw, and I'm gonna take a rest for a second."
yeah. Although I do like the fact that he clearly is suggesting his jaw is dislocated and he pops it back in,
Yeah.
which again is that idea of that muscle memory that you just say, okay, my jaw's dislocated, but I know how to
Hmm.
pop it back in because I've had this before.
Ah.
I got blood all in my mouth, but that is less weird. And then, of course, he stands up and he just waves to the people, and the other guy just waves back. And the guy, what are you doing?
It's one of those weird human behavioral patterns you can't help but follow suit. Somebody waves, even if you. What am I doing? Yeah, just can't help it.
Yeah. So let's go back to the very beginning. What did you think about Harrow breaking the glass, putting his glass in his shoes, and walking on broken glass?
Yeah,
Cool
yeah.
or just, dude, why?
Oh no, it makes him unbelievably scary. Because there
Yeah,
are people like that, like super religious zealots who like flagellate them every day and wear these things with pins, whatever, in them, and like they like to get close to the suffering of God or blah blah blah. And those are the people that are really scary because like they're living in a whole different reality, clearly as this guy is. But that kind of devotion to your zealotry is unbelievably scary because you do not know what that person is capable of. If they
yeah,
condition themselves to that sort of pain consistently, they have no qualms with hurting themselves if it accomplishes the goal. That is somebody who's ready to be a martyr. Those are terrorists.
yeah. And I think we can imagine he is here because honestly, the whole idea of like when they're doing the judgments, and the guy comes up and says, "This is a good man," and then the woman comes up and says, "I've done nothing but good my whole life." It's like, might be something you're gonna do.
Yeah, in the 30 days you have left, old lady.
Well, less than that because just nope.
No, no,
You're
no. I
being
mean, I'm
judged
just
from
saying she was an
yeah,
old lady. Like, how much time can she possibly have to screw up? Either that or she's still in denial and lying
yeah,
publicly.
as so many people do. So that's the thing. The "I did nothing wrong" is always a popular meme. Um.
Hmm.
Oh, so yeah. I
I found
mean,
it surprising that the first person walked up to him has never done anything bad and never will do anything bad. That was interesting.
well, if you think about it, how hard is it not to be awful?
Well, I guess depending on what sort of scale you're using, this, I don't know.
Well,
Like that
that's the
poor
thing.
old
Well,
lady
that's
was
the
going to
thing.
do something, it's like, and that was a young man. That guy probably had a good 30, 40 years ahead of him. Now you tell me that dude's
Yeah.
not going to do anything objectionable for the next 40 years? Like,
Well, objectionable is different than bad.
like
You have
so,
to
so
remember,
then,
we're going by Amit's scale here,
right.
and Amit's yeah. And honestly, all you need to do is not actively want to hurt other people and not do to people what you don't want done to yourself. And maybe you're actually just fine. Maybe all that's asked of you is, do you treat everybody you meet like a human being and don't treat them horribly just because you can? Then you're fine. But that old lady, maybe she was a lousy mother-in-law and a lousy mom and any number of things, or
and
maybe
and
she lived
and
her
and you
whole life
deserved
with
to be killed for it. Okay.
no, she didn't deserve to be killed for, but it's just whatever waiting they're
That's what
gonna
I'm
do.
saying. If being a lousy mother-in-law, is enough to like tip the scales to take all your life force,
Yeah.
what kind of saint are we talking about that this human being is that he's not going to for the next 40 years like kill a gnat or lie to
Well,
somebody
what
or
I can
cheat
say
on
is,
somebody.
what I'm going to say is Harrow is clearly the bad guy. So we're not supposed to find, I mean, that's the thing. And the other option is that it's all a scam. And that it's
Right.
like, no, this guy is useful. This guy can be a soldier. This
See,
old
that
lady,
makes so much
she
more
does
sense to me.
nothing for me. And
Yeah.
that's the mean take, and then it's just candy glass he puts in his shoe,
Oh,
which
I guess that's
honest,
why they showed you the glass, because it's like, so no, I believe that he believes it's real.
mhm.
Um, I believe that there is an evil force behind it, and I don't know what the measuring stick is, but it's not what he thinks it is.
Well, in the actual like Egyptian mythos, what they what do they call it? What they weigh your heart against is a feather. So it is the implication that only the most righteous may enter. So it is this idea that, which is, I guess, maybe how only kings
Protect
got to
that
go to
man,
heaven.
whoever that man was. Like, good lord,
Yeah,
somebody protect him. That's a good human being. I'm like,
I
and that's the
imagine
thing. Like,
so.
is this the first time he's done Sunday service in the park? Like, how many people are lining up to, like, and how often does he find a good apple versus how often does he find a rotten one? How many corpses are stinking up the sewers in this place? And
Well,
and
I'm
people keep coming
guessing,
back.
to be fair, I'm guessing there's usually two or three people that come up. And if if one person gets blessed and two die, but you all believe that those who died deserved it, because you have to volunteer to stand up. You've got to be willing to stand up. And I guess from the lady's point of view is, I'm going to die soon anyway. So I might as well get the judgment, because the worst case scenario is I get the judgment, I'm going to heaven.
Yeah, you know what's
And
funny? You chop a lot of Harrow's hair off, put some like big old glasses on him. He looks an awful lot like Dr. Kevorkian.
well,
Maybe that's
maybe
the thing. If somebody's ready to go,
I
they
think we're
come to
going for
him to
Jim Jones
hasten
there
their
for a minute.
journey. Hmm?
Yeah, but that's a cult leader. That's a cult leader. That
I
is a
don't think
guy who.
Kevorkian was a cult leader.
No. But I mean, that's what Harrow is. Harrow is a
Mhm.
cult leader,
Certainly,
and
certainly.
it is definitely about looking for who is willing to die.
Hmm.
Because I mean, that's one of those weird things here. Is like, I mean, that's the question when it all comes out next episode. Was it a jackal monster Moon Knight was fighting, or did he beat up an old lady?
Mm.
Was it the old lady who died? That was the jackal monster. That, yeah, she died, but her body then became the jackal monster that fought Moon Knight. But actually, in this case, now poor Stephen Grant has to deal with the fact that he killed some random old lady.
Mm.
Wheels within wheels, Mozz.
Mm.
That's how it plays. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, my friend?
I found it interesting that like his little moral scale compass was spinning round and round when it tried to judge Stephen. Now,
Yeah.
is it because he's not real,
Mm-hmm.
or is it because of the split personality aspect?
Yeah. Well, Stephen is good. Stephen is meant to be.
No. But
Stephen's
it
own.
can't decide if he's good or not. Is that because he's not real? Is that because he's just
Well,
a proxy?
or
Or is
it's
it
that.
because the split nature of
Yeah.
the personality?
Yeah. Well, the idea is that Stephen is the one that does good things, and then there's other people that do the bad things. So you can't judge Stephen's soul, because Stephen
I
is
would
good.
like it. I would like it a whole lot more if it couldn't judge him because he's not real.
Yeah, that
So
could be
it,
it too.
it didn't have access to the real soul, right? It couldn't
Well, that's
judge the
why he
soul
says there's
because he was
chaos
just
inside you.
behind a proxy wall. So it's like, I'm a robot.
Yeah. All right. Mozz, if people would like to reach out to you, talk to you about this show, talk to you about anything at all, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to the entire Capes and Lunatics family at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com or call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Leave us a voice message for this show, Super Connectivity, Capes and Lunatics, the Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast, whatever you want. We will play it on the air. Well, I will if you do it, because I love you guys. And then go to Linktree, that's linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. Buy our merch, buy amazing t-shirts, buy real aluminum mugs that keep your drinks cold all night long, or hot if that's your thing. And of course, when you're done with all that, write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's for email, for like our mothers and fathers once use that superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet things like Naomi, which I will get back to eventually, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you lovely landlubbers. Thank you for coming through this world, this sea of chaos, as is Stephen Grant's soul, with me and me first mate Mozz. Once again, come back next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arg.
All right.
All right. Do you want to call it a night, or do you want to pause?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it
Okay.
some other time.
Okay.